All right, what's going on? Let a few people get in here. Okay. All right, well, welcome back on Tuesday. We'll be doing some throwing today, and it's all in preparation. I'm going to hunch down here so you can see me and what we're doing. In preparation, I'm going to be messing around a little bit with the Mako Engobes. So we got some of these here. Believe it or not, I've not used these before. I'm pretty excited. I get a lot of people asking about them. Man, a ton of people come in here and asking if we have them. We finally do have them. I think we only have 2 colors left, though. They've been selling pretty quick. So we have the black and the terracotta. So some fun, sort of neutral colors, I guess. But I've never used them. I'm a big fan of like slip, and I think they're similar to that. So if you got any tips, let me know. And basically today I'm going to be throwing some cups and bowls, just some various stuff to experiment with later. And then, so it'll be kind of a throwing, trimming demo the next few weeks. And then I do want to get a lot of input from whoever is on here that has used these. What do you do with them? You know, what do you like to, what do you like to make with them? I'll try to demo as much as I can, you know, different techniques and styles. So more to come there in the next couple of weeks. For now, we'll just do some throwing. And I don't really know what would fit best with those, so I think I'll just sort of make a little bit of everything. Cups, bowls, who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, I'm excited to use them. Again, they've been asked about a lot, so I think Mako came out with them I don't know, a little over a year ago. And I'm just going to be throwing off the hump. I typically always do that just because it's easier for making small things. And this is like it's a recycled B-mix, but it's real nice. So it's mostly all B-mix. We have used a lot, like we go through a lot of tiles here in the shop and kind of various workshops and stuff. And so we end up just using B-mix and then recycle it and use it again, and it makes for actually really nice recycled clay when all you're using is B-mix. So so I think that should work out. So when I throw off the hump, I'll cone it up, and I will start, you know, almost this tall, just because I don't want to mess around with all that clay down here, and it works out to just start sort of simple up top. And I need some ribs. That's what I need. We'll get. There we go. I knew I was forgetting some. So we got, typically always start with the wood rib 5. And I'll open up a little something with that. It's been a minute since I've thrown, so I think it always takes kind of a couple to warm up a little bit. And then usually I'll mark kind of like where the bottom of the piece is. And then now I just treat this as like the little cup, the little base. Okay. And then we'll just we'll just widen it a little bit on the bottom. And then just straighten the walls. So nothing fancy, just kind of a basic cup. We'll do a couple of these. We'll do wood rib on the side just to smooth that face. Just like that. Nope. Move over. And then the base is right about here, so I just use the edge of the wood rib and dig in a little bit. Cut that one off. So I usually like to just start with a couple of those. Same thing. This top part is mostly centered already, so we'll just go right back into opening up. So some of these, I like making really small just for like little teacups or coffee cups. This one might be a little too small. We'll pull this one a little bit more. Right. And we'll dig that in. You don't really have to use the wood rib there, but I think it helps just sort of give you a nice groove to cut it off with. So we'll do one more like that. Again, this is just going to be kind of throwing a few small things today. And so I like leaving a little bit of that extra clay kind of on this bottom shoulder. And you'll see, so even though we're a little off here, when I go trim, I kind of add this like little concave swoop to the foot. And so it makes it really easy just to sort of pick a shoulder point right here. And then I know down below, that's all going to get trimmed off. And so that's how all of these are going to turn out. We'll cut this one. Good deal. We got a few of those. Now we'll do maybe like a little bit wider, small bowl, like a small little dish. So this, and when I get down a little bit, you know, I haven't centered the bottom too much, so I'll come back and kind of recenter everything now that about half the clay's gone. And then in this case, I'm going to sort of pull this a little bit wider. Sgraffito works well with the dark. I'll definitely do some sgraffito. Yeah, I think the black and the terracotta will look good on the B mix. And then this one I'm just gonna raise up a little bit, and I am going to pull this out wider, so I'm making sure to leave the rim a little bit thicker, because as that stretches out, you want to account for that. Nice and slow. And we'll use the wood rib 2 just to sort of smooth the inside. Shape this a bit more. Just like that. And then just since this is a little bit bigger, I'm going to grab the larger wood rib. So I'll use the 3 just once in the middle here, just because it just helps get the kind of like the inside bottom, really just helps keep it like that nice smooth sort of sphere shaped. That way you don't get that little bump in the bottom middle. So we're good there. Add a dent on that as well. Now, usually even taking bowls off like this, they usually end up getting a little warped. I know there's a pretty cool trick with putting like a piece of paper or paper towel on top. That always works, but not bad. So we'll just keep that bowl as circular as possible. Kind of scoot all this stuff around. All right, so let's do one more like that. Actually, I changed my mind. Let's do, might be fun to do a closed form jar, and then that's what we'll put some of that engobe on. And I think there's enough clay here to do it. So I know we just did some jars, but this one's a little bit different. Just gonna go down like normal. And I'm leaving it a little bit taller. I'm gonna shoot for a little bit of a taller piece. Not real tall, but I'm gonna need to go up. And so I'm just kind of leaving my base a little bit taller, and then we'll make sure to pull it down. There we go. So we got about 1/2 inch of clay on the bottom. And then I'm just gonna pull it out a real little bit. Not much, just like that. Okay, and then so up until this point, I'll show one little trick, is that this is the wood rib 5. So up until this point, I've been pulling it open with the rounded side. So the inside of the piece right now, it has like that rounded edge. For this jar, I want there to be a nice sort of square edge on the bottom. So I'm just gonna pull it up a little bit to kind of use up this clay. And then we can reach down in with that wood rib again and square it up. Wood rib 159. Oh, wood rib 1. It's the 1/5. Oh wait, I'm confused by this. Oh, sorry. This is the 50 millimeter extra long. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. We call them all by different things, but this is a 50 millimeter. It's the extra long. So just so you know. All right, so now going inside, I'm gonna flip it around. And so the base on this is square. So a lot of these other ribs, um, this flat edge is angled, just so you have a nice corner. It just sort of helps you in some situations. In this one though, it is 90 degrees. So you have a nice square corner. So now I can actually reach down and actually square off the bottom. So now that base is gonna be, the bottom of this is very flat. There's a nice corner in there. And then now I can continue to pull this up a little bit. And then I'm gonna raise it up. I wanna make sure to keep a little bit of clay in the rim because I'm gonna have to close that back. Yes, that's what I opened the first piece with. So this is I use this for opening. I'll use the round edge. And then here I just flipped it over and I used that flat edge to reach down inside. And so here, the bottom, I'm making sure this wall is nice and even. Then, so this part's always a little bit tricky. I'm going to get water out of here first. And then I'm going to start to just collar the top part. Nice and gentle. And so as it's coming in, that rim is going to kind of thicken up. And so I'll be able to throw just a little bit more. If you haven't done a closed form piece, it doesn't hurt to just leave everything a little bit thicker, just because you're kind of moving the clay a lot. I've noticed that helps. But then the more you practice it, the more you know about how much to leave on top that you want to bring in. So basically, I'm going to end up coning this in until it closes off, and then you can kind of do some last adjustments to it. But here I'm just going to, I can almost raise inwards a little bit more, but not much. Just trying to kind of stretch, get as much height as I can out of it, and then keep bringing it in. And then it does get quite thick, so you can almost raise it inwards. I say raise, I'm not really raising, I'm more pinching it and stretching it inwards. And ideally, you don't want to, you can always cut it off real low, but then you're kind of wasting clay. So I try to get it as close to the top as possible. Just like that. Okay, so that's closed off. I make sure it's kind of squished in there, and then you can take that piece off. Basically, I want to make sure that it is fully sealed. So sometimes if it like seals up top, it's not, when you pinch this little piece off, then it's still open and it'll collapse. But as long as it's sealed, now you have a bubble basically. And so now you can push it around a little bit and finish shaping it. And so all I do here is I want to try to get closer to a flat top. And so I'm going to use a wood rib on the outside to sort of straighten this. And then I'm going to come down right on top and see how flat I can get this. Just like that. And the last little bit of this will all happen with trimming, but basically now I'm just trying to make sure there's a nice even, everything's all even. So I'm going to flatten this a little bit more. And then on top, I'm kind of rolling this on because I want to create as much of a sharp edge as I can right on this top corner. And it's really weird, like as if if you haven't done this, it's fun to try, but you can feel it. It's a bubble, so it does like sort of dip in and push back against you. So I'm just lightly forcing it there, coming back, and then we'll come there. So we actually have a pretty sharp corner here, which is nice. So that'll get trimmed later. Then the trick here that you don't want to forget is you need to sort of add the groove where that will become the lid. So I use this is the Woodrib 6, it's the 90-degree triangle. This corner has that little sort of flattened wedge shape. That's on purpose. And I'm going to push it in slowly. So I'm trying to create a groove like that. You do have to go a little way. So if you don't go far enough, then you're going to have to do more trimming because you're kind of making like a lip and groove around this thing. So if you don't go far enough, you're going to have to trim more of that lip and groove. It doesn't hurt to just make sure that's in there. Usually it should be fine because remember it's a bubble, so you are deforming it. I'm not necessarily carving this away, I'm just pushing it in. Clean that up. All right, so I think that's it on this one. We'll get rid of some of this extra clay on the bottom. And we have a fun closed form jar. So this kind of completes all the little pieces that we might want to use. And these are fun to kind of fully cover in whatever you're doing and make some sgraffito designs on. This one will cut off. Just like that, and we'll slide it. Oop, I gotta cut a little bit more. Sometimes use a wood rib. There we go. So it goes. So we'll slide this off and set it here with the others. All right, there we go. So we got a few things to put some engobes on. Yeah, I think it'll look good. Next week we'll trim and then we'll apply the engobe, and then the week after that we'll do some carving. And again, if there's anything you want to see, or if you've used these and you like doing some different techniques, definitely comment and we'll try to experiment with all of it. And then you'll also get to see, I will trim up this closed form jar because that's always fun to kind of show how to finish it and how they go together if you've never made one. So those are fun. So we'll show that one as well at some point. So anyway, I think that is going to be it for today. We'll get this wiped up. Yeah, any other questions, anything you want to see, definitely comment and we'll add it. I know it's just kind of the throwing day is always the sort of the slowest, but again, it's important. That's where everything starts. So anyway, thanks for joining, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.